The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network. And hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point, YSNLive.com, brought to you by the big logo right above our heads, Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. You know what Wednesdays bring to the table. Anthony Hartley with you, but also Scotty Mincher, my sidecar, my dude, my Goomba, with the somewhat sideways hat, rocking a little gangster. I like it.
Yeah.
Dropping some bars. You never know. Might be the hip-hop version of Running Point.
Gotta go at least a little gangster.
I know, you got to. Scotty, what's up today, buddy? How we doing?
I'm good. I was already outside because I went to go get some lunch, and it is a beautiful
man.
day.
I think this isn't the first time that warm weather has kind of creeped into the later months of October and fall, but man, I love it. Like, save off the cold for as long as possible. I don't want to think about 40 degrees and ooh. So
yeah,
we can get in late October where it's in the 70s. I'm like, yes, thank you. I'll take it.
We're freeze babies because we can't just run around.
Maybe it's because we can't. We're not like, this might be actual science here. Science warning, as you see in on MythBusters when they actually bring science facts. It might be harder for you and me and other people in like wheelchairs with cerebral palsy to be in the cold because we don't move our lower extremities like as much. We're not like active, like we're not running, we're not, getting blood pumping to the lower extremities. And the extremities kind of are one of the main, facets of your body temperature. Like if you're gonna be cold, your feet usually get cold first, or your hands. So there could be something to that, Not making excuses, but hey, you know what? We were built for tropical weather, Scotty. Maybe we should move down to Florida and start YSN's Florida chapter, you and me.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll cover high school sports in Florida.
The Sunshine State.
Even go further than Florida. Let's go to like Puerto Rico, man. Right on the equator.
Never been to either. I've heard.
I've been to Florida. I've never been to Puerto Rico, but I've been to Florida. I've been to Disney World and Universal, and I have a couple of family members that live down in Fort Lauderdale, and then one lived for a while down in Cocoa Beach, right by the Space Center, the NASA, what's it called? Cape Canaveral, right next to Cape Canaveral. So, been down to Florida several times. The one thing you know about Florida, Scotty, every day you're probably going to get some piece of rain, a little bit. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be raining. Like, those are the two things you get in Florida, for sure. And if you go to Disney World, they don't let you bring in ponchos, so you have to buy their overpriced ponchos when it rains. So that's smart marketing right there.
It is smart.
That's smart business right there.
Yeah.
That's almost as not as, because it's not dangerous to be out in the rain, but it's almost as devious as like the people that maybe the fairs, or if you're out in somewhere where you're going to be outside for a long period of time, where they say you can't bring in outside water, but you have to buy ours, and they gouge up their water prices. like your bottled water. So like to avoid heat stroke, you have to buy our overpriced water.
Yeah.
Not even MLB or NFL stadiums are greedy enough to do that. So for the establishments that do have that kind of working order, maybe a little bit of tisk tisk. We have a lot to talk about today that does not go with the moral high ground of businesses and marketing and the way you sell things. I don't know how we got into that tangent, but we did. Scotty, let's start with some very exciting news. We dropped it over the weekend on social media in the last 2 days. If you noticed, wasn't on Running Point. I was just working really hard getting out invites and trying to get this all-star game that we are officially having organized. Volleyball all-star game date has been set. It'll be the third annual volleyball all-star game, Saturday, November 9th at Salem High School. Can't wait. We are actively right now sending out our invites and sending out um, our information to players so they can say if they're going to go or not. And we've had only one player that has gotten back to us saying that they're not available that day. So we've had great turnout so far already. We have over 20 players already RSVP and confirmed. Happy to say that. So we're gonna have some fun times in Salem in a couple of weeks here for the All Star Game. Scotty, I know you've been to a lot of them. What do you love so much about the YSN All Star Games?
Uh, I just love the fact that to me they're unlike any other YSN and sports night of the year. Um, I just love the fact that you know one of the things that really brings me joy is like seeing DJ, talk and have fun, just kind of joking stuff with the coaches and stuff like that. So I just like that it's still serious and you have that serious element to it. I mean, everybody's competitive. Competition brings out the best in everybody, but it's more kind of fun and laid back, and maybe the number one thing isn't necessarily winning. It's just about going out and enjoying giving the kids a platform in a showcase, but making sure they're represented well. And it's just a fun um, spectacle. I also like, in my experience, Anthony, I like the fact that um, you see the boys and they're kind of a little more just kind of showboating, not like dogging it, but they're like kind of just having fun, having a good time. And the girls are like they have their game face, like they crank it to another level in the all-star game. So seeing that contrast too is also something that I have enjoyed.
Scotty, one of the things that I love so much about volleyball specifically, and we've had two of them now. So we had one at Crestview a couple of years ago, and then we had Westminster last year. And volleyball is a unique sport that I always say to people that you can't just roll out of volleyball and just play pick up high level volleyball. At least you have to have some kind of connection with the setter, or else the hitters are just not going to get the ball where they want to get it, and it's not going to have a rhythm to it. I mean, you'll still have volleyball for sure, but you just won't have like that locked in um, style of volleyball that you want from a all star kind of showcase event. Even though we don't want it to be a showcase in that sense, where we're trying to. This is not we've said it before. This is not about playing time and showcase. This is about shining a light on the athletes that have put together a great season. But at the same time, to get the effect of an all star game in volleyball, we've had to we make the warm a little bit longer in volleyball than we do for the other sports. We give the coaches that are going to volunteer their time a little bit more time with their players, and setters a little bit more time with their hitters, so they can get into a rhythm. And seeing how fast they're able to do it, like it's like 20 minutes on the floor is what you get, and they're still able to just kind of learn the hitters that they maybe never have set before. Some of them have for club volleyball, but maybe learn the hitters that they maybe never set before and just kind of get into a rhythm. And then we actually have gotten really good volleyball both matches that we've played, whether it be the one that we did at Westminster last year or the one we did at Crestview a few years ago. So I've been really impressed with the athletes' ability to put on a high level show in a sport where that's really hard to do. Just roll out and pick up a volleyball and just play with whoever's around you. I mean, it's not easy to do because it takes so much synchronization and so much kind of trust and communication, and that's hard to do with maybe five other strangers on the floor. So what we've seen the last 2 years and hopefully what we see this year is just I think elite from the athletes that we bring in to this fold. So it's going to be fun once again. November 9th at Salem. We will have more information as it comes out. But right now, that is the date. Save that date. And like I said, we have over 20 players already confirmed coming. We will release the whole roster when we get it all situated as well. So if you're interested on who's coming, who's not coming, um, make sure to tune into our social media accounts and our website. We'll have that information available once we like to have the roster locked down before we release who's playing, which we'll probably have. We always aim to have that roster locked down at least 5 days before the game. So you can expect by November 4th at the latest, you'll see a roster pop up from our All-Star game on our website. The other thing that we want to reiterate and make sure that everyone knows and understands, if you're new to YSN or you're kind of tuning in to the first time, every team in the YSN family gets someone invited. So doesn't mean that every team will have someone available to play, but or have someone show up, but it does mean that every team gets the opportunity to send someone. So if you're thinking that it's not going to be an equal opportunity All-Star game in that sense, you are wrong. We want to make sure that all the YSN family schools are able to get someone there. Last year we were so close. We only had, I think, one school last year was unable to attend. So we were so close to having 100% in last year's All-Star game. So hopefully this year we can get that 100% mark. So it's going to be a fun time. Salem, there's no better place to have volleyball. It used to host a district tournament for a long time before all the rearranging during COVID. Now it's super districts, a lot bigger. They have more geographically spread out neutral sites. But when it was a local district, it was always Division III at Salem. I have plenty of tournament memories there in the Quaker Dome, as you might want to call it, or John Cabot Gymnasium to be official. The Cab. There's a lot of names for Salem Gymnasium. Um, so it's going to be a fun time. It's a great atmosphere for volleyball, and it'll definitely be fun. Scotty, you weren't at the Westminster game last year, were you?
I was not, but I'm sure it's really exciting and awesome. Anything involving you get those Quaker crazies in
Yep.
the mix. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, so Anthony, do you think, because you talked about the ability of them to being able to put on like a showcase and how impressed you are by it,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it's kind of one of those things in volleyball where a lot of the good volleyball players and the athletes we do get to um, we do give them a chance to kind of have their own showcase? Do you think it's like mostly just an instinct thing, like it's just something they have
Yeah.
internally?
Yeah, I think it's an instinct thing. I think athleticism takes over. You've been playing volleyball for so long; it's almost like, oh, I can go get that ball. The thing that once again, the thing that I was really impressed with the last 2 years that this is an instinct is this communication that's there between players that you've maybe never played with before, and then just the rhythm. I mean, we don't see many missed sets where a set is just completely in the wrong spot where the hitter wants it, or over the head or anything like that. So the connection between these setters has really been good over the last 2 years with these players that really maybe have played together in club, but maybe haven't played together either. We get that mix of players that have probably seen each other, probably played with each other at some point, but then there are definitely those connections between setter and hitters that they've never played with each other. They've never played before. So To see that happen in like a 20-minute warm up, get a connection with a hitter, that's really impressive. Because usually, if you got the new setter in a high school, setting where you're going out, you're trying to win in a whole season. And I understand winning consistently in a regular season is much different than having a connection for an hour and a half in an all-star game. But at the same time, you're spending a whole summer trying to get that setter locked into your hitter so they have a perfect rhythm and a perfect synchronization. And here kids doing it in 20 minutes. We say, hey, we can't give you, an hour each because then teams will be sitting around for way too long, and we'll have players show up 3 hours before the game. So there's only so much time we can give you. We gave them 20 minutes last year each, so 40 minutes total. And by the time the horns sound and we were ready to go, it was really good volleyball. It was just really good, clean volleyball, which I was super impressed with.
Yeah, that's and you talk about it all the time how in sports, and I think it's like universal, like any sport. You talk about
Mhm.
how like because I'll be like, what about like baseball and softball? Do
Mhm.
you like the high scoring, or do you like more of a
Clean. What do
and
I always say, Scotty? I want a clean
always
game. Rather
always
if it's
say I just want a clean game.
yeah,
Just want a clean, sound, good game, and
if
not
it's high scoring, I want it to be because the offenses are making good hits, or if we're talking baseball, softball, these good hits and good timing, not because the pitchers are just leaving balls right down the middle, or because there's errors all over the field in the defense. I want you know good hits, good at bats. If it's a pitching duel, great. As long as the offense not hacking and everything, and it's bad at bats and just ew, it's fun to watch.
it is for sure. And Anthony, is it one of those things like every year that you kind of feel a little, and especially with you know with this year? Like, are you excited in a different way every year, or is it one of those things that you don't necessarily take for granted, but you really don't know what to expect until the All Star games are underway?
Oh, that is my like the next 2 weeks, Scotty. Every time there's an All Star game, I always compare it to blowing up a balloon because you're working so hard to blow up the balloon, blowing it up. You're putting so much energy in it. You want it to go right, but then Scotty, at the end of the day, when that All Star game comes, you let go of the balloon, and you just hope that you've put in enough work for it to go where you want to go. But you've ever let go of a balloon that's full of air, it kind of it goes wherever it goes. That's all you can do is, we have put in a lot of work, behind the scenes, every All Star game so far that we've ever had to fix the things that we think we can do better from the last All Star game and keep getting better and keep putting ourselves in the position to succeed and have all these kids have a great experience. But at the end of the day, we do all of that. And then when the day comes, you let go of the balloon and you hope that all the players that said they're going to come show up. One, you hope that it's a clean game with, you know, it looks like an all-star game. You don't want to have, you know, you don't want an all-star game to be like, it doesn't look like all-stars are out there. So you're hoping that it's a good game. And then you're also hoping for, of course, knock on wood, no injuries, nothing like that, silliness happening like that. You hope everything goes right that you've put into motion for years, right? Or not years, but for weeks of preparation. So for the next 2 weeks while we're getting ready for this All-Star game, I'm gonna be putting in all the time, putting in all the effort to make sure it gets organized and everyone gets there and we get as many players there as possible. But at the same time, the day of, you let go of that balloon and you hope it goes where you want it to go. That's all you can do.
Um, I like the way you put it. You just kind of you're at the mercy of
Yeah,
the balloon.
of the
Um,
balloon.
yeah. Uh do you think sometimes do you think it's possible that we kind of overlook maybe the pressure for the players in games like this? Because
I think what we try to do, Scotty, is we try to take all the pressure off, right? Like, go out there, have fun. This is about you. This is about shining a light on what you've done all year. Winning this game means nothing. There are college coaches that want to come every now and then, but like I guarantee no one is making or breaking the recruitment process on this game. Maybe you get yourself on a radar. Maybe there's that. That could definitely happen. You could impress a college coach and they could ask about you. That's for sure. We welcome college coaches to these events because we want them to come see the best talent that our area has to offer. But it's not a club setting. Like they're not going to go there and completely judge you on how you're doing in an all-star game. It's really just, in my opinion, as someone that has had a lot of contact with college coaches, um, it would be something just to get you on their radar. If they're going to this all-star game, they're just going to see the talent. Like, hey, what's this area about? What can I get out of this area? They're not going there saying, okay, I've been watching this kid for 2 years, and if she doesn't get 10 kills in this game, I'm out. So there's really no pressure. There's really not. We try to make sure that they know that this is a fun environment. We let them on their phones. We let them have the social media time on the bench, even though, especially on the girls' side, they struggle with that because they're so locked in. Like we tried to get them on the social media on the Instagram during the basketball game, but they were so used to this routine of like being locked in on the bench that like it just didn't happen. So we're trying to break through those walls and get them to let their hair down a little bit, let them have a little bit more fun with it as well. But you can't turn that competitiveness off. You said it before, Scotty. Especially, I think, on the girls' side of sports because they've had to fight for so long just to get respect and notoriety in the media. So they're just in this mode in girls' sports where we just don't turn it off. And we see that in our All Star games. Like we see in the basketball game, you said it. There's no like, hey, we're just gonna walk the ball down the court and the defense is just gonna stand there and let us do whatever we want. There's not that. No way. That's they're pressing. They're getting right in your face. They're playing hard defense. We don't see high scoring girls All Star games because they're out there just competing. They want to prove that they're the best All Star out there on the floor. So we'll probably see the same thing in volleyball. No one's going to just kind of be floating around letting this girl get a monster kill for the oohs and ahs. It's going to be, I'm going to get there. I'm going to try to block you the best of my ability so I can prove that I can do it against you. So it's going to be fun. We try to make it as zero pressure as possible. Get out there, represent your community, and just have fun because you had a great season. We try to get, one of the top players from every team that has really been doing a good job representing their communities all season to come to these all-star games. So that's what it's all about. There's really no pressure. If you're out there and you're watching and you kind of feel pressure because you got invited to an all-star game and you feel like you have to like live up to that status and come out there and have, like I said, like 10 kills or we're going to be disappointed. Oh, we're never inviting her to an all-star game again. That's not it. Like, no, you've done your work. You've done what we expect of you to get to an all-star game. This night's just about you going out there, having a blast, getting a light shined on you for the amazing work you've done all year. That's all this is about. Do not feel any pressure about being an all-star. If you're out there listening and you do, I want to make sure that is clear as day. Like, we already think you're an all-star. That's why you got invited. You don't have to prove anything to us by coming to the game and showing out. So there is no pressure. And if there's a little bit of that pressure in you that said that competitive spirit, then more power to you. If that's what gets you to kind of lock in, I know some players are like that. Some players can't turn that off. They're just like, hey, man, I'm looking around seeing enter name of great volleyball player there on the other side of the net, and I really want to compete against them. And there's that, I don't want to say pressure, but there's that buildup. There's that want, there's that fire that burns in you that says, man, I got to go out there and compete against this person. If that's what gets you up at night, then go for it, man. But just don't feel that negative pressure that kind of makes you feel like it was a bad experience if you don't go out there and get 10 kills on the night, because that's not what this all-star game is about. Like I said, we already know and believe if you got that call, we already know and believe that you're an all-star. So there's nothing to prove in this all-star game. You are there for a reason. Go out there, have fun, represent your community. Scotty, before we get to the scoreboard, which we will because we have tournament games and results to talk about, district championships are being set in volleyball and girls soccer after the results from last night. We do have some breaking news that came out yesterday in Boardman. We're talking about the baseball season coming up here in November, December, January, February, March, 5 months. Boardman has a new baseball coach. The Board of Education officially signed off on the hiring of Joe Lindak, 2013 Boardman graduate. He will be taking over the job with the Boardman baseball team. So congratulations to Boardman and Coach Lindak on that opportunity. But we also want to give a special shout out into that Coach Gabriel, who put in a lot of time and effort and into that program, building it up. And he put out a really illustrious career at Boardman. And I know Spartan Nation, Spartyville, is very proud of what Coach Gabriel was able to do with that baseball program. And now we hand over the rings to someone who is Boardman born and raised. Boardman loves to hire inside their community. So they bring a Boardman guy on that knows the program, that will care about the program. And I think they're in really good hands in Coach Lindak. So although we have another whole season before we get to baseball, we are excited to see the new era of Boardman hardball coming at you with a new coach. And we'll have a coach's corner with him towards the beginning of baseball season as well, talking to him about what he thinks of Boardman baseball, what he expects from this year. So that's fun and that's cool. And we want to congratulate once again Boardman and Coach Lindak on that new opportunity. Breaking news here on YSN that we put up on our website this morning. Once again, Boardman hires Joe Lindak as the new baseball coach for their program. Now, let's go into the scoreboard, Scotty. And I'm going to bring it up on the screen, and then I'll cue you up on who the scoreboard is presented by. So let's get it up full screen so everyone out there can see what we're talking about. It is a process. I think I have to hit like 5,000 buttons to do it. All right. There we go. There's the scoreboard on ysnlive.com/scores. Scotty, the scoreboard brought to you by
Burnett Pool Spas and Hot Tubs. We've got it all.
There you go. I told them on Friday that I think Burnett Pools might be sending us an email that they need to re-record their commercial with Scotty's vocals in there. That might be happening in the near future. The YSN scoreboard is a great tool for our fans, whether you were at one of the games or watching one of our broadcasts. Either way, you don't want to look away from the screen for too long, or action if you're there live. The YSN scoreboard is a great way to get live, updated scores across the YSN family. We have a team behind the scenes that works diligently to make sure these scoreboards are as updated as possible, and you can see what's going on in the area while it's happening. So here we go. Last night, volleyball district semifinals, plenty of YSN teams in action. Asheville Lakeside, they had a tough task. They played the 2 seed in Division 3. They got beat by Gilmore Academy in straight sets in Gilmore Academy. Also in Gilmore Academy, a couple of local teams had to make the trip to Gates Mills Gilmore Academy because that's how the bracket works. So Boardman Canfield, although they're separated by about 10 minutes, went about an hour and a half down the road to play at Gilmore Academy, and Canfield gets the win 3-1 to advance to their district championship. Canfield versus Gilmore Academy on Thursday, at Medina. It'll be at Medina at 5 o'clock. District championship, Canfield versus Gilmore Academy. Should be a good one for the Cardinals. Archbishop Hoban, no problems with the Lions. They continue their glorious run as they try to get to a state championship this year. They're in the district championship right now as they win 3-0 over Alliance. Who will they play? Well, they'll play the Howland Tigers, who upset the 14th-seeded Wesley team. And Howland goes to their first ever district championship. Yes, very good program, a lot of good players, but this is the first time that the Tigers have punched a ticket to the district title game. So they will go up against Hoban on a Thursday. That game will be at Holy Name High School. That is also set for Thursday at 5 o'clock. We go on to the other side of the scoreboard, and we will see that Beaver Local gets the win over Carrollton in 3 sets. They advance to the district championship game. So does East Liverpool. They get the upset over Indian Valley, who was highly touted in this district. So East Liverpool moving on, a 5-set victory for the Potters. So both of our teams in the East District going to the district championship. Crestview, no problems with Keystone, Scotty. I mean, we have talked about Crestview at length. We could talk about them until we're blue in the face. They show up to every game they play with the same energy. They never let up. And Keystone found out the hard way. A 3-0 sweep for Crestview. Same old Crestview Rebels. They were dominant. None of the sets got above double digits. And they're moving on to the district championship. This will be their 10th consecutive trip to a district title game. They have not had a season where they don't go to at least a district championship since way, way back in 2014. So you count them up: 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and now 24. That is 10 straight. It's a decade-long run of Crestview in the district championship game. Now they will be going for their 6th straight championship win on Thursday. They have won every district championship since 2019. Talk about 2019. Who did they play in that district championship, Scotty? It was South Range. And who will they play in this district championship? It will be South Range. The Raiders advance with a 3-1 win over Canton Central Catholic. A tough match for South Range. They won the first set 25-20, lost the second one 26-24, came back, won the third 25-23, and then used that momentum as Canton Central Catholic ran out of gas. They win the fourth set 25-10. The Raiders moving on to their first district championship appearance since 2019. We go to the bottom half of our scoreboard, and we can tell you that Girard goes into Columbiana. They beat the host Clippers in 4 sets, 3-1. Sets were tied at 1 apiece, Scotty, and then Girard pulled off a 26-24 win in the third set, which gave them enough momentum to take care of the fourth. But you got to say, if that third set goes the other way, you don't know how that goes. It was a back and forth nail-biter of a set. Columbiana showed a lot of grit, and I was talking to a lot of people in the volleyball world, Scotty. Not a lot of people, even though Columbiana was the higher seed, it was 3 versus 5. A lot of people weren't even giving Columbiana much of a shot, and they really battled a very good Girard team, arguably the best team they've played all year. They just could not win that third set, close one, and then they couldn't get enough energy into that fourth set to come back from it. So Girard will move on into the district championship game. They play Doylestown Chippewa on Thursday. But a great season for Columbiana, back-to-back EOAC champions, and they will try to regroup and come back next year. They lose a ton of seniors in that senior class, but they have a good JV team and a good junior high team coming up too, so don't sleep on the Clippers in their future, despite the big senior class. Garfield falls to Elyria Catholic 3-0, so the road is done for Garrettsville Garfield. A tough draw because Elyria Catholic is a little underseeded. They don't have a great record, but they play a ton of monster teams. For an example, they played Mineral Lake Catholic, who's the reigning state champions in Division 3 last year. Now they're 7 divisions, so they're in Division 5. But reigning state champions in back-to-back years, so they were able to play them twice. They're a high-level volleyball team, and they beat Garfield in 3. Ashtabula St. John, no problems in their district semifinal. They get the win 3-0 over Maplewood. Lisbon with the upset of Chalker. They win 3-0 over the Wildcats. That's a big upset for Lisbon. They're moving on to a district championship game. Congratulations to Coach Blackburn and the Blue Devils for a great win there. Wellsville moving on as well. They win 3-0 over Heartland Christian. And then Western Reserve, they've lost the first 2 sets of the night. They came back, won the next 2, and then a heartbreaker in set 5. They lose in extra points, 17-15 in the 5th. They fall to Kidron Central Christian, 3-2, the final score there. So a tough one for Western Reserve. They fought back from down 2-0. Couldn't quite pull off the reverse sweep, but they showed their valor in that comeback attempt. But their season does come to an end. Boys soccer, just 2 games. They were both from Beaver Local and East Liverpool. Beaver Local fell to Minerva 8-0. East Liverpool boys soccer falls as well to Riverview 8-0. So we congratulate both those teams on great seasons. Girls soccer, though, took the limelight as they had district semifinals. Springfield falls to Smithville 4-2, their season ends, but they had a great tournament run to get to this point. Crestwood and Southeast. It's Southeast with a narrow victory, 4-3. Southeast under the radar, having a very, very good soccer season. Just 3 losses so far on the year, and they advance into the district championship game. West Branch gets the win over Northwest 2-0. So the Warriors back in another district championship. So is Poland as they get the massive 6-1 win over Canton South. Come on. Don't fail me now. We go into the other side of the scoreboard, and Salem falls to a tough Firelands team. 1-0 on the road. Tough way to end the season for the Quakers, but what a great effort in that game where they were the underdog for sure. Excuse me. Thought I had to sneeze, and then it went away. Perry with the 4-0 win over Woodridge to advance into the district championship. Lakeview, they get beat by Chagrin Falls 6-2, so their season comes to an end. Hubbard goes on the road, gets the 4-1 win over Field, so a big win for the Eagles to advance them to the district championship. They will play Indiate-Fo Niles, who gets a no-problem victory over the Leary Catholic 7-0. The final score there. Warren JFK edges out Rootstown 1-0. They're going to district championship. So is Mooney as they win 1-0 over Norway. Columbiana gets a hat trick from Eladota, and they get the 4-2 win over Open Door Christian to advance to the district championship. Champion, 2 goals from Mainly Endowed was all they needed as they had a 2-0 win over United to advance to another district championship. That is the second straight for champion. Remember, last year the Flashes went all the way to the regional final, so they're trying to repeat that run. They'll have to go up against Berkshire, who got the 8-0 win over Pymatuning Valley in the district semifinal. That is 4 versus 5, so technically champion is the higher seed, but Berkshire will be a very tough out for the Flashes. That game will be on Saturday. And Austintown Fitch. So if you're a local fan of either one of those teams, you don't have to go far for that one. And then Beaver will be moving on. No, I'm sorry, that's a regular season game. Sorry, I forgot this is the last week of Beaver's regular season. They win 1-0 over. No, I'm sorry, this is the WPIL. Yep. Backtrack. Rewind, redo. WPIL first round. Beaver gets to win 1-0 over 14th seeded Shadyside. So Beaver will be moving on in the WPIL bracket in girls soccer. So that does it for the scoreboard. We will come back to it at the end of the show if time permits and preview the games that are going on tonight. We have more district semifinals in volleyball. We'll also have district semifinals in boys soccer. We have a comment, Scotty. Let's see. I'm betting it's not radar. I would have bet it was radar.
Not radar.
We say that Beaver local boys won 8-0. So our scoreboard, unfortunately, must be a little bit backwards there over Minerva. So we will have to fix that. We apologize for that mishap, and we thank you for updating us. We will correct the scoreboard ASAP. So Beaver local boys win 8-0 over Minerva. We flipped that, and we'll get that corrected on the scoreboard as well. Scotty, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we will ask the most dangerous question in all of online streaming. What is on Scotty Mentor's mind today? You ready for it?
Let's get dangerous.
We'll get dangerous after this commercial break, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on
the solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by the people you heard from in that commercial and the people that are right above our heads, Greenwood Chevrolet. In Austin Town, Scotty Mitchell alongside Anthony Hartwig here with you. And Scotty, it's time to ask the most dangerous question, man. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, so I have something local, a local thing I want to pick your brain about. But first, I was just wondering, I think it may have broke last night. I saw it today, so it may have just became official or just about official today. I want to know your thoughts on your Kansas City Chiefs signing DeAndre Hopkins. So what are your thoughts on that? And then the second part of the question, Ant, every week it seems like I've been hearing that, Patrick Mahomes hasn't had a good season, and, this Chiefs offense are just not very good. They're inept and things and that. But then you look up and they're still undefeated. So do you think right now that the Chiefs defense this season has played better than last season's defense?
Well, I'll answer your second question first because it's the freshest in my mind because it's the last thing you said. The Chiefs offense, honestly doesn't look, fantastic this year. Now, injuries have been plaguing their offense. Isaiah Pacheco, he's out. Hollywood Brown hasn't played this year. Rasheed Rice is out. So we have definitely been hurt with injury. That's no doubt there. But you look at our offense, we haven't scored 30 points yet this year. That's just reality. We scored 28 on Sunday against San Francisco, which was fun. Kareem Hunt has seemed to bring some running back to our offense when we.
And then, I hate to be a jerk, but it just, I just wanted to throw in there. I'm sorry, I never want to cut you off, but I just wanted to say that the Browns' offense this season has yet to score 20 points in a game.
That's because the Browns have a very sketchy individual as quarterback for the first 6 weeks of the season, and it did not work out in their favor. Scotty, I'm sorry. I know you're a Browns fan. That will go down as one of the dumbest moves in GM history. There's been a lot of bonehead moves in football's history. That might be one of the worst moves that a front office has ever made, to put so much into this guy that off the field had his problems. We know that. But even on the field, he'd won one playoff game in his whole career. He wasn't like winning titles or going to AFC championships. He wasn't Josh Allen. He won one playoff game, and it was a defensive game that his defense got him a turnover, and they won in overtime against Buffalo way back when. And then he blew a 24-point lead to Kansas City. That's the guy that you want to almost bankrupt your future for on the field, who hadn't played in the year. That didn't make sense initially. Then when you add all the stuff that he had going on off the field with the terrible things he was accused and settled for settled in court for. I mean, what in the world was going on? Like, there's something fishy because no right person in the right mind, and especially it's a collective. It's not one person that makes the decision and says, "We're doing it. Everyone else deal with it." Or it could have been, I guess, it could have been the owner. But my word, what a just like it's gotta suck to be a Browns fan right now because you had to root for that guy to an extent, like for you guys to succeed. But everyone in Cleveland had to know that was a bonehead decision, like absolute dumbest decision in maybe all of sports. I mean, like I can't think of more just like head scratchingly stupid front office decisions. I mean, your future, your draft picks are gone. You have to get rid of players that are pretty good for nothing just to recoup, and you're still on the hook to pay this guy even though he's hurt. He might not make a snap again, and he's still going to make over $100 million on you guys.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's nothing anybody could say to
what, and someone needs fired. Like, please.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that press conference that when they first brought him on, I laughed through the whole thing because they were trying to like make this sound like it was one of the best signings in franchise history, and I was like, "You're kidding." The dude hasn't played the year, and he wasn't really that awesome. I mean, he was like, you could probably say when he was in Houston and doing well, maybe if you're generous, like top 15 quarterback in the league, maybe like top half.
So you don't even think he was top 10?
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 years, but not consistently. He had D-Hop a lot of those years too, by the way, in his prime, that really helped him out. And I know a lot of people love to say Patrick Mahomes is not that good because he has Travis Kelce and he has Tyreek Hill and I've heard it throughout his whole career. So I will definitely use that same argument on Deshaun Watson, who in his best years had D-Hop, who was one of the best receivers in the league in his prime. So yeah, I was never like overly impressed with Deshaun Watson in the NFL. He won one playoff game, my dude, and just the football, that made no sense. But then you add on to the off the field stuff. I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Craziness.
At the time,
Craziness.
From a football perspective, even though I wouldn't, because at that time I wanted Russ. He was number one target.
Like Russ, I mean, there were so many. Like, there were options then. It wasn't like Deshaun Watson was the only thing on the market that could have sustained. Keep Baker. I mean, my word, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I know this was a Chiefs question, but like,
yeah,
you turned the guns to Brown.
I did.
Yourself.
That's my fault. But getting back to it.
I'm sorry, buddy. And then one more thing, watching the awkwardness of Browns fans trying to that first year when they signed him, trying to like navigate how to find a way to root for this guy that was still like being accused of all the stuff he was accused of and trying to just find a way that was so awkward. Ugh.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess. And
Scotty, let me ask you something. We're on this, and I know this is your segment, but it's what's on your mind. So I have to ask you, because I've seen a lot of Browns fans' opinions on it, and they've gone both ways. Do you like the players defending the guy in their locker room no matter what because it's their teammate, or were you kind of like put off by teammates coming on and saying he was a great player, he's a great teammate, all the stuff that Jameis Winston said about his work ethic, and Myles Garrett comes on, talks about him how he's been I think he said high class, like a stand-up guy since he got to Cleveland. Do you like the guys publicly defending their player because it's their teammate, or were you kind of annoyed by guys defending a guy that was clearly just not a good fit for Cleveland? Where do you stand?
I hope this isn't a cop-out answer, but I'll say that I understand why they would defend them because they're the one that sees them in practice every day. They're around them more than a lot more than the average fan is. The players and coaches, they have a more personal relationship with him. So I understood that. The other thing is too, whether fans buy into it or not, NFL players say all the time how it's a brotherhood. And they never like to see anyone get hurt, go down. So I totally understand that, but I don't think like the whole narrative that Browns fans, and I don't think everyone's saying this, but it has been floated out there. Like even supporters of the Browns I listen to on podcasts, they're like, we have too many trash fans. We've got to get rid of these people and this and that. How do you cheer when a guy goes down injured? And that's just trashy. And
Sidebar to that, Scotty, I've heard from a lot of people that were there that it wasn't as magnified as it sounded on TV. Like when you were at the stadium, it wasn't a huge section of people that were, in fact, cheering for that injury. It just so happened to probably be next to a parabolic mic and got picked up a little bit on the national broadcast. Still a bad look for anyone that was doing it, but I've heard from a lot of people that were there that it wasn't as egregious as it sounded in some of these videos that are floating around on social media when you were actually in the stadium.
Yeah, and it was one of the games. I didn't actually end up going to this one, so the only home game I haven't been to this year. I've been to the other one, but I don't think like that whole narrative that Browns fans or that's classless and they're trash, this and that. I think it's really hard to pin that on the fans because I think if Deshaun Watson was anywhere, like say he was playing in Atlanta or just say Philly or something like that, I think any stadium, any jersey you put him in, when you factor in how he's played on top of the allegations, I think any fan base would have had some of those reactions. So I don't like the players coming out and kind of attack. Like I think Myles Garrett, he could have said, "Look,
Myles Garrett rubbed me the wrong way. Like his press conference, I was like, dude, you've gone from supporting your teammate to going like saying things that we know aren't true. Like he was not a stand-up citizen. I'm sorry.
No,
I get it. He wasn't charged with anything. He settled it. That's almost saying you're guilty by giving money to say, hey, whatever, let's make this go away. 24 dozens of different allegations. So he was. You can defend like. My stake was you can defend your guy and say, hey, that's my quarterback. We fought together. We don't want to see him hurt without like being tone deaf to what his situation was. And I think Myles Garrett was a little bit tone deaf to what Deshaun Watson's whole situation was. And so when you go over the top like that, you really make people just roll their eyes and go, okay. And then a lot of people are like, well, yeah, the guy that took off someone's helmet and tried to beat him with it is a character witness. Probably not a great character witness. For people, I tend to kind of agree with that a little bit. It's kind of weird for a guy that has made that kind of mistake before to be like, hey, man, Deshaun Watson's a good dude. Well, you've had your times when you weren't necessarily a great dude either, where you didn't have a great look, and that was just on the field. So what's scary, Scotty, what's scary is what would have happened if Deshaun Watson was winning games.
Yeah, I know.
How much that masked things. No one would have been cheering his injury for all.
You hear me?
You there, Scotty?
Yes. Lost
My
you.
computer turned off, so.
But you were saying
it was barely unplugged.
You were saying what would have happened if he was winning games?
Right. You know, like I don't think the fans would have cheered for his injury. Now I know a lot of fans have defended themselves by saying, bringing up the off the field stuff, but if he was winning the games, I think a lot of fans would have just like forgotten about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look at.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's definitely wrong, but it happens everywhere. Like everywhere in sports, winning and talent mass pretty bad character choices. So that's always scary to me to think like, well, if he was winning games, if Deshaun Watson was working in a normal job, he would have been fired and never worked again. Right. So that's always just the thing that's like, oh man, sports.
And
we love sports, but there are kind of dark sides of sports a little bit. We are hitting the end of the show, Scotty. I apologize for eating up a little bit of our time with our.
I'm sorry.
We're good.
That's on me because I wanted to sprinkle a local thing in there, but that's my fault.
What was your local thing? Well, we'll talk about it. We'll go into overtime real quick to make sure we bring it back to local.
Okay. Cool. So one local thing I had, Anthony, for you were talking about earlier about the competitiveness of the athletes you cover, and more specifically the competitiveness of the girls side. But you've talked to me a little bit about in the past about how you weren't really like a sports fan right away. It kind of developed over time. So I was just wondering about your competitiveness. What was the age you started really becoming really super competitive? And then the second part of that thing, and if you go back to, because you've been with YSN since the beginning, if you go back to 2017 or even before that when we started here at YSN, who's one athlete, if you could pick, that you would want as a teammate?
All right, so once again, I'll answer the last question first because it's clear in my mind. So you're saying an athlete that was playing before YSN started that I would want as a teammate, right? That's what you want?
Or during the infancy days of YSN.
Wow, you're making me go back into the memory bank, Scotty. You put me on the spot. Let me do some computing here. So before I started at YSN, we'll get one thing right, because we talk a lot about South Range, and I'm a South Range alum, and I don't like coming off as that guy, that homer guy on YSN. But before YSN, like I was all South Range. I went to South Range. I ran their social media for 3 years before taking the job at YSN in 2017. So my knowledge of pre-17 athletes is a lot heavy towards South Range. And that being said, I'm going to go with a guy that had a really good basketball career at South Range, but also I think a golf career at South Range, and he continues to light up the golf course with the greatest golfer. I believe he's won. And he's Brian Tolner, so be mad at me if I get this wrong. I think he's won 6 greatest golfers in a row. It might be 7 now. Braden Pluchinski from South Range. That dude was he was so hard to defend on the basketball court because he was a point guard that could also, he was tall, so he was hard to block a shot against. He was so athletic. Took South Range to a couple of district championship games. Unfortunately, ran into a couple of good Springfield teams there. Kansas City Catholic also was a bugaboo for South Range in that time period for the district championships on the boys' side. But man, he's a South Range legend, a Hall of Famer, I believe, at this point. Probably for his golf, because he went on to have a great golf career at Youngstown State, and like I said, continues to golf really well in the area in the greatest golfer tournament in the summers. So I'm going to go with Plu. We call the Plu and South Range, Brandon Plechinsky. That's my pick.
Nice.
And then wait, I got to get to the second part of your question because there was the first part.
The first part was what
my
age
competitiveness, right?
was it, or was there a time that coincided when?
I would say like there's a time, Scotty, and I know this sounds crazy because it's like you've always had a disability, but when you're developing, and maybe I think other people with my level of disability can probably relate to this. When you're developing, there's a time that hits when it becomes a reality that you will not compete with your peers. And it doesn't hit until you're about in like 4th or 5th grade when you start to realize like they're starting to be here and I'm staying right here. Like in 3rd grade, I can run around with the kids. Like no one's lightning fast and there's a 3rd grader, right? But then when you're 4th, 5th, 6th grade, they start to get into sports. That's when you start to realize like I'm not there anymore and I have a disability and I'm not going to be able to play sports in the same way that the people that I go to school with are. So that's when like the world for Anthony shifted from a competitiveness from I want to go play sports to I want to like root and be a fan for sports. That's when I started taking the Kansas City sports really seriously and started to watch them like religiously. That's right around the time where I became a Georgia Tech fan, and I'm still a huge Tech fan. Started to support the teams at South Range a lot more once I got into like 6th grade. And became kind of one of the people that was always at South Range events and South Range, huge fan as a student at South Range, went to everything I possibly could. But I think when the reality hit that I wasn't going to be an athlete, and I know, once again, from an outsider's perspective, it's crazy because, you're growing up, you never didn't have to, it's not like in 4th grade, I all of a sudden became disabled. Like I knew. But you got to remember, as a 4th grader's mind, the reality doesn't hit yet. It doesn't hit yet that, like, I can't go play football. I can't go and shoot I can't go play basketball for South Range. Like, it's not going to happen. So when that reality hits, you just kind of, like everyone with disability does, Scotty, you know this too, you have to adapt. You have to adapt to what you're given. So I took my competitiveness that I couldn't use on the actual playing surface, and I said, okay, I'll be the best dang sports fan in the area, and anyone that plays South Range is going to hear me. So that's when it kind of shifted gears for me. I'd say right around, I would say for sure around 5th or 6th grade, but then definitely after 6th grade when like everyone was in junior high sports and I knew I wasn't going to be on the 7th grade or 8th grade, teams or anything like that. So 5th or 6th grade is when the reality hit, and then I would say the fandom part of my sport journey really kicked into high gear. Probably around 7th grade.
That's awesome. So yeah, right for the teenage years, you kind of probably had those thoughts. Like I know I used to have watching games and stuff. I don't know if you did, but sometimes I would like imitate the broadcasters and stuff like that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Always
Scotty, my mom would always like laugh and yell at me because I would say things before the color commentator would say it. And that's when she's like, I know you, because in high school, I was all about wanting to be a film director. I made movies as a high schooler with my friends in the summers. My senior project was a documentary about the basketball team. I was all about wanting to be in film school. I went and visited at USC. But when that reality kind of hit that I couldn't move across the country and be in film school and live out there by myself, mom would be like, man, you are built for being a sports broadcaster. And then right around the same time, I went to college for TCOM, and then YSN came around right when I was about to graduate college. So it was kind of perfect timing at that point when it was like an avenue for me to be a on-the-air sports broadcaster. And then right after I kind of graduated college, it was actually, I signed on with YSN about a month before I graduated at YSU. In November of 2017, I graduated in December. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you for putting up with me today,
Scotty. Thank you for dealing with my computer glitching and turning off and not running away and being like, nope, here's over.
No, I when you know I can't run. So.
I came back and I saw you like looking around, like, what do I do now?
Yeah, I'm like, oh boy, what do I do? Like, I guess just wait.
I was hoping you'd take command. Be like, all right, this is Running Point.
I should have just started.
This is Scotty Mentor's show now.
Singing.
Yeah. All right, Scotty, what a great week it was here on Wednesday's episode of Running Point. We want to thank you so much for coming on like we do every week. We will be back next week with Scotty on Wednesday like we always are. Scotty, it's our last week of the Audible call together, buddy. Week 10, the last week we do it. So I want to remind everybody on Friday night, 7 o'clock, tune into the Audible call on Ysn social media pages. I'll be there. Scotty will be there. Mike Ackelson, of course, as the wonderful host. Radar will probably definitely be there with his Tupperware and stealing pizza.
Yeah.
Eric Oates, all the game, Mike Swinehart, we'll all be there for the Audible call. One more week of that in the regular season. We're excited for it. Scotty, we will see you on Friday. We'll see you on the show next Wednesday. Thanks as always for coming on. And for everyone else out there tuning in, thank you for tuning in today. Running Point, always brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood.